You might want to watch this whole video from beginning to end, or you might just like to focus on one or two slides from this video. So please feel really free to use this video in whichever way suits you best. What is summarizing? Summarizing is asking the question, what is this all about? So summarizing is giving the important points. It's finding the main ideas when you've been reading. So if you were making a non-fiction summary, you'd make sure to include the title and the topic of what you've been reading about, the main ideas and some key facts, and you'd be making sure to say why the topic matters. And if you were writing a fiction summary, you'd be making sure to write the title of the book and the topic of the book. You'd mention the characters and the setting. You'd want to talk about the main idea of the book and the problem that the characters are overcoming. And you'd go quickly from the beginning through to the middle and end, and you'd also name some themes. And I would just like to point out that retells have much more detail than a summary, which is pretty brief. So we can actually summarize well because we use three different types of reading. So we browse, which is when we just look through something, look through a website, flip through a book and see if we want to use it. Once we've actually chosen something that we want to read in detail, we then actually preview it. So before we start reading, we actually preview the signposts on the page or on the website. And then when we're hunting for specific information, we scan looking for keywords. And every single one of these types of reading uses signposts. So signposts are vital for summaries because they actually signal main ideas. So let's just take a little bit of a closer look at browsing. As I mentioned earlier, browsing is exploring. It's when we're just checking things out. So if you're on a website, the signposts that you'll see are the menu tabs, for example, and the About section. If you're browsing and flipping through a book and it's a non-fiction book, you'll see the contents page. You might have a little browse through the index, have a look at the glossary. You're still deciding whether you want to keep reading this in detail. You're browsing, you're just exploring. And I should make a note that some people call the navigation signposts text features. That's another way that they're named. So when you've chosen what you want to read, you don't start reading straight away. You preview the text, you look at those signposts to get the main ideas before you start reading. So actually previewing is a kind of predicting. And you're looking for the signposts because they show you the main ideas. So really, to write a good summary, you must use the signposts, absolutely. So in non-fiction text, the signposts are obviously the title of the text, then the introduction and conclusion paragraphs, and you also see that the headings are signposts, and you get pretty good at looking at the topic sentences in each paragraph as well. And all of those signposts give you signals of the main ideas of the non-fiction text. When you're looking at a fiction text, you quickly get your head around the characters, the setting and the problem, and they are the signposts. And another form of main idea that you grapple with when you've been reading is actually the theme. So I should mention in passing that what I call previewing, some people call skimming. So now you start reading the text, but sometimes you're hunting for particular facts and details. You're not even trying to read at a proper speed, you're scanning super fast. and you also use the signpost to assist you. So for example, if you're looking at a text about an animal like a lion, and you know that you're looking for what they eat, you won't start your scanning until you find the heading diet. So that's a signpost. A heading is a signpost, and the word diet tells you that the main idea of that section is going to be about a diet of an animal. So please, please know that headings are signposts that carry main ideas. So just a quick recap. Browsing, remember, it means exploring. It's when you're just quickly checking out and saying, do I want to read this? Previewing, you use it when you're ready to read, and you look at the signposts before you start reading. So the things that are circled in red on this page, they are the signposts. The big title at the top there, then underneath that big title, I've actually circled the introduction paragraph. Then I have circled the headings because these are signposts for main ideas. Now, for scanning, which is really reading super fast, when you're scanning for a keyword, you've got to make sure that you're scanning under the right heading. So if you're asked the question, where do light shows called auroras appear? You're going to find the heading about light shows before you actually go scanning to find out more about auroras. So previewing and scanning go together. Previewing is where you make sure you're in the right section with the right heading, and then scanning is when you drag your finger very quickly or you take your eye down the page very quickly. So one of the most basic things you do when you put a summary together is you get your head around the W's, the who, the what, the where, the when, and you make sure that you really do know them because you can't write a summary without talking about the W's. So let's have a look here at this page, which is about the Great Fire of London. And you can see that before you would start reading this page, you preview it. So when you're looking at the page here, the title's been previewed up the top, it's been circled, so has the heading, the introduction paragraphs had a little intro written next to it, the image has been asterisked, actually two of them have been, and you might notice that there are some lines that have been underlined, and they are topic sentences. So the first sentence, it's usually the first sentence of a factual paragraph, actually tells you the topic of that paragraph. It tells you the main idea. And then the other sentences in a paragraph, they give you interesting detail. So that's how a factual paragraph is structured. It starts with a topic sentence to tell you what the main idea of the paragraph is, and then the rest of the paragraph gives you interesting details. Now, when we preview a page, we don't usually do it by circling the headings and asterisking. We usually preview a page just using our eyes. We just start at the top and we go, okay, what's the title? All right, what are the headings? Okay, what are the topic sentences? And that quick preview that we do with our eyes before we start reading, that actually gives us the main ideas before we dive into the text. So after you've finished reading, if you want to start putting a summary together, you can actually take the headings that you were reading about and you can create a grid. I always suggest to people that they call the first part of the grid introduction, because introductions don't usually have a heading called introduction. So I just get people to write introduction. Then you've got the other headings that came next on the page. And then I suggest that down the bottom of your page, you have some boxes to put the summary into. So I hope that's helpful for you. I have found that to be really excellent. I do that a lot when I've finished reading a non-fiction text. I just divide a page up into boxes, and each box has one of the headings from the page, and then I put the details under each heading, because each heading is actually a main idea. So this is really going to help me in writing a summary. So this is just a blank example for you to get an idea, and you can do this yourself every time you've been reading a non-fiction text. Another really good way of writing a summary is to use the fuller scaffold, where you put the headings from the text in the left column and you put some interesting details in the right column, and down the bottom you write visual notes. Each visual note has a little frame around it so they don't get all muddled up together. So this isn't a summary yet, but this is a set of notes that will be really useful to form a summary. So VIPs are a great way of capturing main ideas when you're reading. You can use sticky notes, and you can make a note for yourself as to what the main ideas are. Ranking ladder is also a really fun way of trying to capture what you think the main ideas are, and you put them in order so that the most important main idea is up the top of the ladder, and down the bottom of the ladder is an idea that you don't think is quite as important. Reciprocal reading is something that you can do in a group when you're reading a factual text that's going to be quite challenging. And one of the roles in the reciprocal reading group is actually the summarizer. So the summarizer tells the group what they think the most important points are from the section that they've just read. So that's actually often what the group starts off with, actually, is having the summarizer talking about the facts that have just been read and giving the main ideas. And then next comes the clarifier, who brings up some mystery words and explains to people what those words mean. Then the questioner asks the other people in the group some questions just to sort of check in that everybody did really follow what that section of the chapter was about. And then finally, the predictor predicts, just having a really quick look at the next section, has a prediction about what's going to be coming next. So this is reciprocal reading, and certainly the summarizer does have an important role in kicking off the discussion. Sensational six is a fun way of capturing what you've just learned when you're reading a non-fiction text. So you can put what you've read into 6 words. And another thing you can do actually is you can note down 6 new words that you found when you were reading. So sensational six is a really nice strategy. 6-word memoirs is very similar. It's what you can do when you want to describe the journey of a main character in a story that you've just read. You can write their journey in a 6-word memoir. It is actually used for a whole lot of other fun things. I'm just saying its use here for summarizing the journey of a main character. So some people actually write 6-word memoirs about their own lives to express an important theme. So here's somebody's 6-word memoir: picked the trumpet, changed my life. And somebody else says, there's always time to just relax. So 6-word memoirs don't just have to be about main characters in a book. They can also be a little wrap up of where you're at in your life right now. So as a writer, how does the summarizing skill come into play for you? Well, it really helps if you can write a catchy blurb that summarizes your text. And some people actually use 6-word memoirs as a planning tool in their early stages when they're thinking about a main character or thinking about a theme. They actually express the theme of the story they're going to write in a 6-word memoir, or they actually speak as the main character in a 6-word memoir in their planning stage, which I think is really quite fun.